Okay, we are going to learn how to solve a quadratic equation now by using the quadratic formula. We've already learned how to solve quadratic equations that can be factored. We factor them and set it equal to 0. We've learned how to solve quadratic equations by graphing the related function, and the x-intercepts is the solution to the equation. We also have learned to solve the quadratic formulas by completing the square. And the final method, we've also square rooted both sides if b happened to be 0. But now the final method we're going to use is the quadratic formula. So to solve an equation using the quadratic formula, if we look at page 40, we'll take the first equation. It says 2x squared minus 5 equals 3x. First thing we do is put it into standard form. 2x squared minus 3x minus 5 equals 0. Now, I would always try first to solve by factoring, because if factoring works, it's the quickest. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 10, but add up to negative 3. And in this case, negative 5 and 2 works. So this is factorable. So we're going to first solve it by factoring, but then we're going to also solve it by using the quadratic formula. So I factor by grouping, take out my x, and I get 2x minus 5 plus 1 times 2x minus 5 equals 0. So either x plus 1 equals 0 or 2x minus 5 equals 0. This answer would be negative 1, and this answer would be 5/2. So let's see if we get the same answer using the quadratic formula. So to use the quadratic formula, I label my A, B, and C. So this is A, B, sorry. It has to be in standard form or it won't work, and this was not in standard form. So A is 2, B is negative 3, C is negative 5. So x equals the opposite of negative 3. So 3 plus or minus the square root. Negative 3 quantity squared is 9 minus 4 times 2 times negative 5 all over 2a, which is 4. Now, whenever you have this situation where it's minus and a negative, it becomes plus. So this becomes x equals 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 plus 4 times 5 is 20 times 2 is 40 all over 4. So this ends up being x equals 3 plus or minus square root of 49 over 4, which is 3 plus or minus 7 over 4, which is 3 plus 7 over 4, and 3 minus 7 over 4. This becomes 10/4, which is 5/2. This becomes negative 4 over 4, which is negative 1. So notice we get the same answers, which we expected, using the quadratic formula. So again, to use the quadratic formula, you must set your equation equal to 0. It must be in standard form. And then you identify A, B, and C and just plug it into the formula. Now, you can stop the video and try to do number 2 on your own. And hopefully now you've resumed the video and you got answers of 1 and negative 3/2. That also was factorable, so it gave us a nice answer. Now let's look at number 3. Number 3 is 3x squared minus x minus 16 equals 0. Again, let's identify A, B, and C. We plug it in, x equals negative b, the opposite of negative 1 is 1, plus or minus the square root. B squared is 1 minus 4 times 3 times negative 16 all over 2a, which is 6. Again, notice I have minus a negative, that becomes plus. So 4 times 16 is 64. 64 times 3 is 192. So I get x equals 1 plus or minus the square root of 193 all over 6. Now, if I was asking for the exact answer, you would be done because this is the exact answer. But if I say, give me an answer rounded to the hundredths place, what we would do is we would find the square root of 193, which is 13.89. I don't know why I wrote square root. Sorry. The square root of 193 is 13.89. And now I do 1 plus 13.89, which is 1489 over 6. 1 minus 1389, which is negative 1289 over 6. And using my calculator, I get 248 and negative 2.15. So again, if you were asked for the exact answer, you would keep it with a number under the radical sign. Now, we are going to learn how to simplify radicals in the next section. So what we're going to do for this chapter is always round it to the hundredths place. So I want you to use your calculator and give the estimated answer. But again, if you were asked to give the exact answer means leave the number under the radical sign in simplest radical form. Okay, so go ahead and do number 4 on your own, very similar to number 5. Stop the video, and when you're done, resume it, and I'll give you the answers. So hopefully you got x equals negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 181 over 10. And that ends up being negative 1 plus or minus 13.45 all over 10. And that ends up being negative 1.45 and 1.25. Okay, so now we're going to do number 5, the last problem. So, number 5 is negative 5x squared plus x minus 13 equals 0. You all know me, I do not like working with a negative leading coefficient, although you can, but I don't like it. So I'm going to multiply everything by negative 1. And then I'm going to let a equal 5, b equal negative 1, c equal 13. So x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root. B squared is 1 minus 4 times 5 times 13. Now, 4 times 5 is 20, times 13 is 260. And I'm thinking to myself, uh-oh, because 1 minus 260 is negative 259, and we can't have the square root of a negative number. So we're going to say no real solution. You can just say no solution, but no real solution. Now in Algebra 2, you will learn that you can come up with an imaginary solution for the square root of a negative number. But for now, we're just allowed to say no real number. So if you ever end up with a negative number under the radical sign, we say no solution. Okay, so that is it for the quadratic formula. You can check the homework and agenda board and get started on the homework.